Hello. You should see the desktop and hear me by now. Everything seem okay? Am I hearable? Yep. Okay, great. Thanks. Okay. All right. Um, so first thing is the second exam will be the second take-home exam will be this Wednesday. So here are the review problems. Does anybody have any questions about the review problems? Anybody looked at them and have any questions about specific problems?
Yeah, I have a few questions, and let me just pull up my thing for a second so I remember which two I was going to ask about.
Okay.
Uh, First one I want to ask about is 3C.
Which one?
3C, part C of number 3.
This one here.
Yeah, the one with the V down there.
Mm-hmm.
And the second one was actually, come to think of it, that might be the only one for now.
Well, so here, let me. So you start with these two strings. So put them in Java Visualizer.
That's number 2, I think. I don't think that's relevant to question 3, is it?
Oh, I miscopied. Yeah, I'm sorry. So it's this one. Yeah, we start with this guy, and we need to put him into Visualizer. Okay, and now the question is, how do we get this out from a single while loop? Okay, all right. So we have 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 1. Let's see. Actually, let me. So the picture looks like this. There's the picture. Okay, and we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines of output. Okay, so we would need a for loop or a while loop that iterates, it looks like, at least 6 times. Okay, so we would start with a while loop, while, and if we're going to, if we do a while loop, we have to come up with our own counter. So I'll put an int row counter, start with row 1. Okay, while row is less than or equal to, well, to start with, it looks like I'm going to need, like I said, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows. So let me try with row less than or equal to 6. Okay, right. Then what would I do inside the while loop? What do I want inside the while loop?
Inside the while loop, you can put an if statement saying that if I is less than, let's say, what I have for mine, let's say 5.
Now, why do you need an if statement?
Because if you can see on every line, there are 2 printed. So you want to be able to print that very last one by itself.
Okay, yeah, this line's a little bit different. This last line's different than the others, and that causes a problem. Okay, because see, what's the pattern for each line? What would be the pattern for these lines?
Print an asterisk, a bunch of spaces, asterisk, and then you add a space like at each end.
Not really. See, there's actually no, there doesn't need to be a space at each end. If you look at if you look at this guy, doesn't, it's kind of a weird quirk of way the browser shows it, like here. As far as I'm concerned, it would be it would be unimportant if you put that space there or not. The browser seems to kind of show it like there is a space. In fact, there isn't a space. The browser is just kind of showing it. See, it shows a little blue space after the star. In fact, there really isn't. See, when I copied and pasted over here, no, watch. I'm sorry. When I copied and pasted over here, see, and if I highlight this, see, when that means it just goes to the end of the line. There's no space at the after that. Okay, so what we do, so for one line, we need print a star. Okay. Now after printing a star, what do I need? Oh, and then at the end of the line, I'll need another star. What goes in between the stars? What's the pattern? Star,
The string?
pardon me?
The string?
Well, I need to use the string to get what?
Substring.
Substrings.
I want spaces, right? Now, normally, if I didn't give you this string, what would you do to get those spaces? Like here I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 spaces.
You would do like a loop that would minus it by, how many spaces is that?
Well,
between?
okay.
Is it?
If I didn't give you the string and you needed 9 spaces here and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 spaces here and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces here, what would you do to get variable number of spaces?
Subtract it from 2, but you also need the 1 space before the rows.
We also need the spaces before. Okay. So, okay. Now, what does the string here do for you in this problem? How would you get these spaces or these spaces without that string? How would you get 1 space here, 2 spaces, 2 spaces?
You can do a substring, so you can.
No, if you didn't have this string.
Oh, if you did not, okay.
Yeah, what would you do if you didn't have that string? To get a different number of spaces here and a different number of spaces here and a different number of spaces here.
I think somebody already said it. You could just, in the while loop, you can probably just put down.
Well, which while loop? This one?
Yes, actually, yes, because you want to count by.
But what's the job of this loop? This loop is responsible for doing what?
Creating additional rows.
Right. Its job is to create rows. Inside here, you print 1 row. So how do you get a different number of spaces at the beginning of the row for each row? It can't be this guy because he's doing the whole row. He's doing 6 rows.
You create another counter variable.
And what else would I create?
The counter
Counter
variable.
for what? A counter for
A substring with an S. Or the
no,
number of
I'm not going to
spaces.
use, no, I'm saying if you didn't have this string, if you did not, suppose I deleted the string and said, do the problem without it.
You can do a nested while loop or a nested for loop.
Right, you would need nested loops. The string is eliminating the need for a nested loop. See, I would need here, see, what's the pattern for one line? So you have to think in terms of patterns. You have to think in terms of the generality. In general, what is the pattern for one line?
Some amount of spaces plus asterisk plus another amount of spaces plus asterisk.
So it's some amount of spaces, asterisk, some amount of spaces, right? Asterisk. That's the pattern. See, one row would be spaces, asterisk, spaces, asterisk, and yeah, and then if you wanted, you could put more spaces at the end to fill out this square, but the problem doesn't really ask for that. But you could put spaces at the end to fill out the square if you wanted to. But we'll leave it. We'll just stop at this edge here. Now
And
that
then
means that
after-
every row is spaces, star, spaces, star. Now, how do I get this spaces? There's two ways. What's one way to get those spaces? What would be one way to get those spaces?
For loop.
One way would be a for loop that just printed spaces. So I could put a for loop here and print spaces. What's this homework assignment suggesting you do?
Use the string.
And how? Use what? How would I use it?
Do you create a counter variable that makes substrings?
Well, I want to create substrings of the string. I may not need to create a counter variable because I already have one. See, I have row. So hopefully the row number will be what I could use, okay? So for example, look at this row here. There is, think of this as like a little table. You have spaces, a star, spaces, and a star. And this row, how many spaces are there?
0 at first and then 9.
0 and then
9.
9. Okay, in this row, how many spaces at the lead part?
1.
1. But how many spaces in the middle part?
7.
Yeah, you go down by 2 because you move over to the right on this end and you move over to the left on this end. So 7 spaces there. Okay, how many spaces at the beginning now?
2.
2. And then down by 2 here, 5.
Mhm.
Then 3 spaces here and 3 spaces here. 4 spaces here, and what's left here? How many spaces over here?
1.
1. Now this is the odd row. See, this row doesn't fit that pattern. See, now this row doesn't fit that pattern. See, it doesn't have spaces, star, spaces, star. It's only got 1 star. So we'll have to treat it separately, and we could either do that with an if statement, or I'll show you 2 ways to handle that. But this one, see, it doesn't fit the pattern. So something's got to be different for these rows and this one. Okay, now let's do the first space. What row are we in?
1.
Yeah, we're in row 1, and we need how many spaces?
0.
0. When we're in row 2, we need how many spaces?
1.
1. So what in symbol, how many spaces do I need here?
It's like 1.
Well, yeah, using a symbol. So in row 1, I need 0 spaces. In row 2, I need 1 space. In row 3, I need 2 spaces. So how many spaces do I need at the beginning?
Row minus 1.
Yeah, I need row minus 1 spaces. See? Now, do the little harder one. What about this one? When I'm in, here I need these spaces. So when I'm in row 1, this one's gonna be a little bit trickier. When I'm in row 1, I need 9 spaces. When I'm in row 2, I need 7 spaces. If I'm in row 3, I need 5 spaces. This one's a little harder to write out. Like, so obviously it depends on what row I'm in.
Is it 9 minus 2 times the quantity, row minus 1?
Okay, let's try it. 9 minus 2 times, what was it?
Row minus 1.
Okay,
and then parentheses,
row,
yeah.
okay, let's make a guess and then check it. Okay, so let's see if this looks like the right formula here. 9 minus 2 times row minus 1. Okay, when I'm in row 1, 1 minus 1 is 0. 2 times 0 is 0. I'm left with 9. Okay, when row is 2, 2 minus 1 is 1. 1 times 2 is 2. 9 minus 2 is 7. When I'm in row 3, okay, now notice that what it is I'm starting out with 9. So I'm starting out with 9, and then I got to decrease by 2 every time. Okay, now look how I will get the formula. I start with 9. You can see that I'm starting with 9. Then I have to drop by 2s. And each time there's another row, I drop by another 2. So I want, every time there's another row, I want to drop by 2. But I don't want to put row here because I want to start by dropping by 0 2s. So I put 1 row minus 1. You know, just like here, I needed row minus 1. Here, I needed row minus 1. And actually, I could make all my formulas a little bit easier. Does anybody see a little trick I could do to make my formulas a little easier? There's a little subtle trick I can make in this problem to make my formulas a little easier. When I'm in row 1, I'm interested in row minus 1. When I'm in row 1, I'm interested in row minus 1.
Do you create another variable for that?
No, oh no, that would be making it messier. How can I make it a little bit simpler?
Make row equal to 0.
Yeah, start at 0 here. If I start at 0 here, that's 1 less than I was starting at. Then this becomes just row spaces, and this becomes 9 minus 2 times row spaces. So if I want to, I can simplify this by putting a 0 here, and then see, in row 0, 0 spaces. In row 1, 1 space. So I would do it this way. And then this one would just be this. And then I would stop at 5. I would go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, actually, I would up to 4. No, I would only go up to, well, depends on how I'm going to treat the last one. Okay, it depends on how I'm going to treat the last one. Okay, so I would need row 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 good ones, and I'd have 1 row that's special. And I have to decide how to handle the special row. Okay, all right. Now, how do I get row spaces? How do I get that many spaces out of this string?
Substring.
Whoop, I'm typing in the wrong place. System, first I have to print out. System.out.print. Okay, now I want to print a substring, s.substring. Okay, what substring? I want a substring of length, what?
0 for now, so 0, comma,
Oh, but
row,
I can't
right?
use I have to use the variable here because I have to count for the fact that this is in a loop. So what goes here?
Row.
Well, if you put one variable in a substring, what does the substring do?
It's the entirety.
Pardon me?
Prints the rest of the string starting.
Prints the rest of the string. Now, since row is starting out 0, this is going to print a lot of spaces. We want row spaces. We don't want to start at, if we start at row in this string, we're starting at the beginning and going all the way to the end of the string.
Could you do 0, comma, row?
Yeah. Now, if you give it 2 integers, you start at the beginning and go up to that number. So that would start at 0 and go up to that number, but not include it. So when row is 0, that goes up from 0 to 0, not including, so it prints no spaces. When row is 1, it goes from 0 to 1, not including 1, so it prints 1 space. When row is 2, it goes from 0 to not including 2, so it prints 0, 1, which is 2 spaces. Notice how confusing this is. This just takes real real concentration to think about this. Row is the row number we're in. So that's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's actually the row number we're in. That's also how many spaces we want. If you use substring with 0 up to row, you go from the 0 index up to the row, but not including the row index. So when you go from 0 to 0, you get no spaces. When you go from 0 to 1, you get 1 space, the space at index 0. When you go from 0 to 2, you get 2 spaces, the spaces at index 0 and 1. Okay, so that should work. What about this guy? How do I do this one? I need to print. I need to print, again, a substring. What can I put inside here?
You could do row, comma, the length of the string.
Oh, well, I don't think that'll work. It won't give us the right number. In fact, if you go to the, if you do that, you don't even need the length. If you just put the number row and you go to the length of the string, that's the same thing as if you don't put the length of the string there. That's just saying start at row and go to the end.
Sorry, length of the string minus 1.
Well, oh no, but that's still the same thing as this. That
Okay.
goes from there to the end. Okay, that goes from there to the end. But that's not that's not what we want here.
Okay.
See, that's not going to give us this pattern. That won't give us down by 2s. See, that would only, for one thing, that would go, as row increase, that would go down by 1s, not down by 2s. Okay? So what can I put in here?
Can you do that? Put that formula in a variable and then put it at the end?
I don't need it in a variable. Okay, this was the way to get row number of characters, right? So 0 to row gave us row spaces. So
Oh, actually, someone just put it on there. So you can do the length of the string minus the row. Braxton said that.
yeah, no, that won't be the right thing. No,
Okay.
because see, that would go down by 1s. See, that would always go down by 1 because row, oh no, it go down by 2s because row increases on the left and then row decreases on the right. Oh, maybe that, let's see, does that not, okay, that might work because that does go down by 2s because it increases the starting point by 1 and it decreases the ending point by 1. So it goes down by 2s, okay? And the length of the row, actually, let's see, how long is this string to begin with? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And we wanted to begin with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, so it's, yeah, so that'll work. And there's another thing that'll work too. Okay, so let me show you, let's write 2 answers and we'll comment out one of them. So one of them is to do from row to s dot length minus row. Okay, that's one way to do it. Okay, so that's one way. We're going now. We can't do it 2 ways. We have to comment out one. But can we see another way to do it? How would I mimic this idea?
Do 0 to 9 minus 2 times row.
Yeah, I just use that formula that we have. So go from 0 to 9 minus 2 times row. Okay, so there's another way. Okay, all right. So both of these should work. Let's comment out that one for now, and we'll try one of them, and then we'll try the other one. Okay. Now notice that on one hand we had the formula here, so I can just use that formula as the ending spot for my substring, and start it at 0, just like we did here. Or you could do this one, which is kind of nice. because what this one does is it takes these substrings and it moves you forward 1 on this end while it moves you backwards 1 on that end, because rho increases by 1. So that moves the left starting point, and rho increases by 1, but since you're subtracting it from length, that moves you to the left away from the right endpoint. So this moves you left away from the right endpoint. This moves you right away from the left endpoint. Okay, move you to the right away from the left endpoint, move you left 1 step away from the right endpoint. Okay, all right. Now, what about that last line? It doesn't fit our pattern. How do we deal with that? Rows 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4 are okay. Row 5 doesn't fit our pattern.
You can put an if statement saying if row is equivalent to 5
Yeah, and where do I put that?
after the while loop.
Yeah, right after the while loop. I have to say, pardon me?
Not you.
Oh, you mean after it like here, or do you mean after it down here?
You can put it after the while loop, yes, because you
Down
want to
here?
break. Yes.
Well, down here, I don't need a while loop. I don't need an if statement. See,
you
down
allowed to
there,
just-
I would be done with all this.
Are you allowed to just print it?
Yeah.
Just
So
print,
what's one possible solution?
just do system print the 4 spaces and then a star?
Oh, that's cool.
Well, I have to now. Yes, print 4 spaces and a star. So that row is special. So 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces and a star. Okay, that's one way to do it. Okay, but then I have to do what up here?
That to a 4.
Yeah, now the pattern is for 4 rows. So the pattern's for row 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and this line's just handled separately. Now there is an if statement solution. Okay, so let me comment that out. Let's not use that one. What's the if statement solution?
Oh, you can do an if statement saying if the row is less than 4, execute everything that's in there. And then you can say an else statement for the very last print, which would be from row.
That's this one here. Yeah, so I put that where? Where's that if statement go?
Right above right there, yes.
Okay,
Like
use line numbers. Yeah, so it goes at line
7, yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
so if I'm in row less than or equal to, let's see, remember it was, the good ones are 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So if I'm in row up to and including 4, and then I'm going to change this to be 5 rows. But if I'm in the first 4 of them, do what we just did here. Okay. And then now I get to the special row. Else, I'm in the special row. And what do I do in the else case? The else case is that special row by itself.
You pretty much just do the first 2 commands. The substring from 0 to row and then an asterisk.
Let's see. Oh, so I could just say, I could use these 2. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they did this leading part, so we can treat it as, see, that leading part extends for 1 more row, so we can say, okay, use what we were using for the leading part. Okay, that's nice. Okay, so the last row uses the first part of the pattern. So if you want, you could say the last part used 5 spaces, but then nothing else. Okay, so it only used the first part of the pattern. Oh, I'm sorry. No, it used 5 spaces, then the star, and then it didn't use this guy. Okay, so it did the spaces, star, but then nothing after that. So that would be the first 2 lines here, the spaces, then the star, but not the part that came after the star. Okay, all right. Now we should be done at this point. We've got 5 rows. 4 rows are handled one way, and the last row is handled a separate way. Okay, now visualize it. Oh, now I made a mistake. First of all, what am I forgetting?
The last, I think in line 13 should say system.out.print line.
Yes. See, or I could have a separate print line. You know, you could either turn this one into a print line, or you could do at the end of the line, you say system.out.print line. So you could do it either 2 ways. You could either make it its own statement, or you could just put an ln on the end of this guy, which will put an ln at the end of that guy. Okay, so now when we get to the end of the line, we have to say go back to the beginning. So the last thing we print should include go back to the beginning. So let's try now. Oh, I'm sorry. And I have to do the same thing. Same thing true here. Same thing true here. So I'll fix this one by putting the ln there. So I'll do this one with the ln there. The last thing has to include the print line. Okay. Visualize. Let's see, do we get the right picture? Now, see, we did something wrong.
You need a counter variable.
I have a counter variable. What am I forgetting to do?
You're forgetting to increment it.
Yeah,
actually.
I'm forgetting to increment it. So I need row plus plus, because I'm not using a for loop. Yeah, that's why for loops are a lot of times a lot more convenient than while loops, because they kind of force you to remember to do the row plus plus. Okay, so I need a row plus plus in there, and then I should also have one in here. Well, actually, the best way to do this is after the if statement, do row plus plus. See, you check what row you're in. If you're in row 1 through 4, you do this. If you're in row 5, you do this, and then you increment row. Okay, so you always have to increment row. The last thing you do is go ahead and increment row. Okay, and I also could have put that print line right here. So I could have taken, if I wanted to simplify this a little bit, I could take this guy out of there and take this guy out of there and say, oh, after you print a line, you end it. So this would print the line, but then after you print either the row 1 through 4 line or the last one, then this one would print the end of line thing. Okay. And I forgot the semicolon. Okay, let me go look at the end. Okay, there's my picture. Okay, so there's the right picture. Okay, now let's switch between that one and this one, which I said they both should work. 2 different ways. This is getting the spaces in the middle. 2 different ways to get the spaces in the middle. Either move the left end over and move the right end over, move both ends over 1, or keep the left end where it is and move the right end over 2. Okay, so I can either, from this substring, I can either move the right end over 2, 2, 2, or I could have this substring here and move the left end over 1 and move the right end over 1. Okay, so you think of this as moving the left end by 1 and moving the right end by 1. So you shorten the string by 2 each row, or you can just say keep the left end where it is and move the right end by 2. Okay, so two different ways of thinking about it. and check that this, go to the end, see, it still gives us the same picture. Okay? All right, notice how much thinking there is in this. You have to think out a strategy and then try it, and then use, like we did, trial and error. Don't expect to write it and then you get the right answer. You expect to write it and see a mistake and fix the mistake and think about it. It's a process of writing and thinking, and then writing and thinking, and every time after you write, you write it, run it, see what's wrong, think, rewrite, run it, see what's wrong, think, and you keep looping like that. So you're looping too. Okay. Oh, notice how a little table like this can go a long way. You write out what the pattern looks like, how many spaces there were, what row we were in. Like, I should have put another thing in this table. I should have said, what row are we in? We're in row 0 and we want 0 spaces. We're in row 1 and we want 1 space. So a lot of times when I do these tables, I make it, the first column would be the row number, or my loop, what is really my loop variable. Okay, and that kind of sometimes helps a lot to have the first column be, that's my loop variable. Then how many spaces do I need? I need a star. Then how many spaces do I need? And how do these numbers relate to the loop variable? Okay. So making a table like this can go a long way. Okay. You have a table that says, I have this variable that's going to go from 0 to 5. So I'm going to make it go from 0. I'm going to make it go from 0 to 5. Then, okay, so I have a row 0, a row 1. And then here I can kind of count off what I need. I need to spaces, star, spaces, another star. Okay. And then I can figure out, I can see how many spaces I need, and then I can figure out what formula that would be. Well, this one's easy. In row 1, 1 space. In row 2, 2 spaces. In row 3, 3 spaces. This one was much trickier over here. Okay. All right. All right. So that's a lot. That's what you expect when you try to solve one of these problems. Okay. Now that one came after these two. So we did this one without having done these two beforehand. If you did these two, they give you a hint about how to do this one a little bit. So these two should also give you a little bit of a hint, because notice that this edge is like that edge, and this edge is like that edge. So in a sense, part C is a little bit of a combination of an A and a B put together. So it's got this trailing edge and got this leading edge. This one had the spaces in front. Okay. Well, this one's got spaces in front, and this one's got spaces in front. But over here, the spaces are in front and in between. Okay. So it's a little bit, not quite, but it's a little bit of a combination of like these two. Okay. Now, what about another problem from this practice problem?
Or 5.
5? Okay. So let me open up another Java visualizer window. Okay. Now, we need a table where the rows are growing. Okay. Now, it doesn't, if you need a table of rows and the rows are growing, what's the main structure of the program? What should leap out? What idea should you start with to do this?
A for loop?
Yeah. Well, a for loop or what?
Nested
Pardon me?
nested for loops.
Yeah. Now, why do you think it's going to need nested for loops?
There are multiple rows and multiple columns.
Yeah. So the one for loop will pick a row. That's the outer for loop, and then the inner for loop will pick a column or go across a row. Okay. Now we don't have a substring that we can easily manipulate in this. Like in these problems, remember the substrings got rid of the inner loop for us. The substring was what actually eliminated the need for 2 loops. But in this problem, there's no string that see, there's no common string that these rows are coming from. So there's no trick where I can use a substring of something. So I'm going to need 2 loops. So I'll go ahead and write for int I equal something. And I'm going to leave a lot of blanks. I less than or equal to something. I plus plus. That's my outer loop. Then for int j equal something. J less than or equal to, I don't know what yet. I'll have to think about that. J plus plus. Now, sketching your code is a good idea. So you notice I'm just putting question marks where I have to fill in the blanks. If you want, you could use underscores to say, oh, there's a blank there, and I'm going to have to fill in the blank there, and I have to fill in the blank there, and I have to fill in the blank there. However you want to write it, but it's a good idea to sketch things out. Okay. Now, let's try to figure out these blanks here. What is my outer loop going to do? How many rows are there?
8.
Okay, so let's think that, okay, the outer loop will pick row 1 through row 8. So let's make this from I equal 1 to I equal 8. That's a row. If you want, then you can even think of, oh, I'll change I to row if you wanted to. You know, you could say, well, I'm letting this thing count rows, so why don't I just go ahead and call it a row variable? Okay. Now, what about this guy? This one's a little bit trickier. How many things are in a row? How many things are in each row?
Doesn't that increase by 1 each time?
Yes. Okay. Now, in row 1, there's how many things?
1.
In row 2, there's how many things?
2.
In row 3, there are how many things?
3.
In row what, there's how many things?
What?
Pardon me? In what? Yes. So now this loop should go from, this thing counts how many things are in the row. In that row, how many things are in that row?
Row number.
Pardon me?
The row number.
Yeah, so this would be up to row. See, I'm going to count off that many things in row. In row, whatever it is, in row, I'm going to count up row number of objects. Okay? Okay, and over here, see, in row 1, 1 object. In row 2, 2 objects. In row 3, 3 objects. In row 4, 4 objects. In row 5, 5 objects. In row 6, 6 objects. Okay? All right. So far, we should be okay. We've got 8 rows, and each row, the length of the row is equal to the number of the row. Whatever row you're in, you have the row, the number of the row is the length of the row. Okay. Then I need to print some. Now this is picking the columns. So I'm going to print something in each column. I'm going to print something in each column. What gets printed in a column? Look at a column. In each column, tell me in words, not real precisely, sketch it out. What gets printed in a column?
It starts with 10 and then 1 gets added each time.
Okay, but that tells me about the sequence of numbers, but like what gets printed in each column? Like what got printed in that column? A number and
Space.
a space. And then the next column was a number and a space. Okay, so let's think about that. We want some number plus a space. Okay, see, I'm sketching it out. Okay, I'm going to print some number plus a space. Okay. What did that number start with?
10.
Pardon me?
10.
10. Yeah, well, what if I just say int number equals 10. Okay, so I'm always printing that. Now I'm printing that number, but now I'm printing 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. But what happens after you print that number?
You have to add 1.
Yeah, so let me just go down here and say number plus plus. Okay, yeah, I add 1 to that number. I print it, and then I print it with a space, then I add 1 to it. Okay. All right, so I print that, like take this row here. I print the number, add 1 to it. I print the number in a space, add 1. Print the number in a space, add 1. That's the end of the row. Then I go to the next row. Print the number, add 1. Print the number in a space, add 1. Print the number in a space, add 1. Print the number in a space, add 1. Now that's what I'm doing here. I'm printing the number and a space, and I'm adding 1. Looks good. Am I done? Anybody see? Anybody got an opinion? Am I done? Do you think I have it? I mean, I could just go ahead and run it, and that's what you should do. Yeah, don't think too hard. Just say, "Hey, am I done? Let me try it." But can anybody see? Am I done yet?
You need to add a system.out.print line after the inside for loop.
Yeah. See, when you get to the end, you have to do something to go to the beginning. So let me go ahead and just run this. Let me see what happens. So if I was impatient and I just went ahead and ran it, I go, oops. Well, what did I do wrong? See, I always forget the semicolons. Okay. Okay, go to the end. Oh, well, now I see real quickly that I forgot what?
System.out.print line.
Yeah, it's all one line. I forgot to terminate the lines. Now look, look at my, do I get the numbers right? 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, all the way up to 45. Okay, I'm going from 10 to 45. So I think what I'm only missing is that system. Now, where does it go? This prints out 1 row, right? So at the end of that loop is the this for loop's job is to get me from the left end to the right end of a row. So that for loop's job is to get me from the left side to the right side of a row, and then I better terminate the row. So, but that's after the loop. See, that's after I've gotten from one end to the other of the row, then I go back to beginning of the next, go to the next row, beginning of the next row. So go to the end, yay, okay. Make sure it's really right, yeah, everything looks good. Okay, all right, so some of the ideas is write your code in sketching form. Write your code, like, remember I had blank there and I had a blank there. I knew I needed 2 for loops. So write out the 2 for loops. But, if you want, you can go ahead and leave blanks in places. And then you have to then you go fill in the blanks. Like I knew I was going to print out some number plus a space. But then that's not, then, well, okay, then I can make that number a variable and then I can just increase it by 1. Okay. All right. Because and it's a matter of thinking, thinking a little bit, writing some code, try to run it, see, and if, now it can't run until it's, like if you have blanks, it can't run. Like you can't run it when you maybe still have a blank somewhere, but you fill in the blanks and see if it's right, and then keep thinking, and it's a process of trial and error. Solving computer programs is almost always a little bit of a process of trial and error. You try something, look at the output, see how close you are, then go back and make corrections. Okay, now what about another one? Anyway, let's try another one. There's another one we could do.
Could do 7.
Oh, good, yeah, because it's real similar. Yeah, it's a very similar. Let's think about this one. Okay. Now, what do I think of right away first? What's the first thing I think of?
Nested for loops.
Nested for loops, because we're doing rows and columns. So I'll just go, I'm right back to saying, okay, for int I equal something, I less than or equal to something, I plus plus, outer loop with an inner loop in it, for int j equal some starting number, j less than or equal to some ending number, j plus plus. Okay, now let's see. It's a table of rows. So what else do I, what can I just, what do I know by now? What should I do at the end of a row?
Print a line.
Yeah, so this guy is going to print one row. And we've seen by now that at the end of a row, I'll need system.out.println, just a blank line, okay? So since I'm doing this pattern of printing a table, whenever I get to the end of a row, which is what the inner loop does the row, it always has to end with a blank line. Okay, how many rows are there?
7.
7. So let's do this from 1 through 7. Now I could do this a bunch of ways. I could do this from 0 to strictly less than 7. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 7 rows. Let's look over here. Yeah, it's hard to say how I might want to do that. Well, what's another way? Look how this guy goes 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. You know, I mean, I could even do what over here? Oh, I was doing the wrong for loop. That's dumb. I was playing around with the wrong for loop. Here's the outer for loop, the one that picks rows. This is the one that picks rows. Okay. What are my choices for picking rows? What do you think are my choices for my outer loop variable? One through 7 is 7 rows.
I think it might be better if you start with 0.
I could start with 0 and count up to and not including 7.
Yeah,
0.
because it might be easier later.
Pardon me?
Because it might be easier for.
Yeah, it might be. Now, what's another thing I could do that might be easier later? Can anybody see another? Like sometimes it's easier to start counting from 0. Sometimes it's easier to start counting from 1. The fact that there's a row of zeros down here means maybe I want to start from zeros. But what else could I be doing? What else could my outer loop do?
You could put less than or equal to 6.
Yeah. Instead of saying strictly less than 7, I could say less than or equal to 6. Okay, that's another one. What else could I do? But what? Now I'm doing a more radical change. Think completely differently. What can my outer loop do? Maybe a good idea, maybe not a good idea. But look at that. The outer loop is picking rows. What else could it possibly do?
Could you like decrement it?
Yeah, so count down from what to what?
From 6 to 0.
Yeah, that might be that may not be a bad way to do it. Yeah, in fact, I think I'll do it in parallel. What I'll do is I'm going to make 2 copies of this and see if I can solve the problem 2 ways. Okay, we'll do one counting up. Let's see if we can do it. This one will count up, and this one will count down. Now, if I count down, I do what? I want to count down from what? Count down starting at what?
6.
Yeah, countdown starting at 6. Count till I'm, while I'm greater than or equal to what?
0.
0, and count down. Okay, we might be able to make that work. Now, then the I is not a row counter. It's just this number that's being printed. Notice it doesn't make it a row counter. It makes it the number that's being printed, which is interesting because then inside here, that's going to be the number I print. Inside here, I'll be system dot out dot print I, because that's what I'm going to be printing. See, in this row I print 6s, and in this row I print 5s, in this row I print 4, in this row I print 3. So there'll be some kind of thing like that. Okay. Now, what about? Okay. Now let's do this one first. Let's just solve it this way. We're counting up. We're counting up from 1 to 6. Oh, I want to do something. To make it easier to think about it, let's put the picture over here where we can play with it. Yeah, let's put the picture where we want it in our code. Yeah, put it in our code so we can, so now we don't have to keep switching between windows. Okay, all right, here's the first row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spaces, and then a number. Next row, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces, 2 numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces, 3 numbers. So what's going on in here? Forget that, don't do this. Let's just concentrate on this one for a minute.
The number being printed is equal to number of spaces.
Oh, okay. Oh, is that right? The number, okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spaces, print the number 6. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces, print the 5. Okay, that's good. And that number is actually what? Okay, so the number of spaces is always equal to the number that's being printed out. Now, in row 0, that number was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In row 1, that number is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So what is that number? Okay, here, let's make remember I said it's sometimes good to make a table here. So what's our row number? How many spaces? And then what's the digit we print out? Okay, this is row 0. There are 6 spaces and we print 6. In row 1, there are 5 spaces and we print 5. In row 2, there are 4 spaces and we print 4. Okay, so that pattern keeps going all the way down to in row, what row is this one? In row 6. In row 6, we print 0 spaces and we print the number 0, 6, 6. We print the number 0. Oh, and how many times? Oh, actually, spaces. There's actually 3 things. How many spaces, how many digits, and then what digit gets printed. So there's actually should be 3 columns here. How many numbers and what number? Okay, so it's really 3 columns. Okay, how many numbers are in this space? There's 1 number, but the number is 6. Here there are 2 numbers, but the number is 5. Here there are 3 numbers, and the number is 4. Okay, so in row 3, there are 3 spaces, there are 3 numbers, and the number is 3. And in row 4, there, did I do something wrong?
4 numbers, 4 threes.
Oh, yeah, 4 threes. Yeah, this, okay. And then now there's 2 spaces, 5 numbers, but the number we're printing is 2. Okay, and then there are, in row 5, there are 1 space, 6 numbers, and the number we're printing is 1. And in the last one, there are, the number we're printing is 0, and there are 7. Okay, there's our table. Okay, So we've got to account for this table. Here's what row number we're in. We need that many spaces, that many numbers, and what number we're printing. Now the spaces come first, then the numbers come second. Okay. Notice that the what number is equal to the number of spaces, but that's not how many. There's a different number. Okay. How am I going to get this? How am I going to get spaces followed by numbers? Spaces followed by numbers. Spaces followed by numbers. What do I have to do up here to get that?
Well, we need to print out row plus 1 spaces for each. Or
Well, not row. Okay, row 0 has 6, but somebody hasn't said what. There's something real important. I need a certain number of spaces followed by a certain number of digits. A certain number of spaces followed by a different number of digits. Can anybody see what in my structure? What do I need? I'm missing something up here in my structure.
another for loop.
And where? Where does it go? Is it going to be inside one of the for loops, outside one of the for loops? You know, where do I need another for loop? That's the right answer. Where does it go? Think
Before
certain number.
system print line.
Pardon me?
Before the system print line.
Yeah, between this for loop and that, I need another for loop. See, so I need something like this. Okay. What's this for loop's job? Comment. This for loop does what?
Spaces.
The spaces. And this for loop does what?
Number of numbers.
The digits. Yeah, I'll say digits. Does the number of numbers, the digits. Okay, okay. So now why do these come first?
Because they go first.
Yeah, because they're on the left. Yeah, they come first in the printout. Okay, so all right. Now I can start filling in the blanks. Does how many spaces are there? In row 0, there are 6 spaces. In row 1, there are 5 spaces. How many spaces are there here? The what spaces?
Equal to number printed out.
Well, what number is that? Yeah, see, no, okay. What do I have to work with here? See here, think of my table. In row 0, 6 spaces. Now, why do row 0 is my, if you want, actually, that's my I variable. See? This guy's my I variable. This column here. So when I is 0, 6 spaces. When I is 1, 5 spaces. When I is 2, 4 spaces. So what's the question mark here? Does the what goes in that blank there? What goes in this blank here?
6 minus I.
6. Yeah, 6 minus I. 6 minus I. Now double check. When I is 0, 6 minus 0. When I is 1, 6 minus 1. When I is 2, 6 minus 2. When I is 3, 6 minus 3. See? When I is 4, 6 minus 4. Okay. Oh, now, how do I do? Now, then what do I do? What goes in this blank? How am I going to count 6 minus I spaces? J starts at
6.
Could you just do 0 to 6 again?
Well, no, because I have to make the count 6 minus I. I have to count out 6 minus I spaces.
You start at 6.
Oh, well, if I start at 6, then what do I do?
You'd have to decrement it.
Yeah, I don't want to decrement it. Usually you don't want to do that. What's the best way to count 6 minus I spaces? What do you usually do when you want to count things? You start where?
1.
Start at 1. And if I want to count 6 minus I spaces, where do I stop counting?
6.
6? Doesn't that count from 1 to 6 every time?
Minus I.
6 minus I. Yeah. See, that counts. That counts from 1 to 6 minus I. I is, see, I'm in row I. See, I have to think in terms down here. When I'm in that row, I'm in row 2. So I want to count 6 minus 2 spaces, which is my 4. So I want, when I'm in row 2, I want to count the 6 minus 2. The easiest way to count the 6 minus I is to start counting at 1, from 1 to 6 minus I. Okay. Oh, then what do I put inside here? What goes in there?
Just a space.
Well, not just a space.
I mean, printing out space.
Printing out, yeah, printing out. Yeah, so we have to be careful. So system.out.print, we have to print out a space. Okay. All right. There's 6 minus I spaces. Okay. That's the beginning of the row. Okay. Now over here. Okay. Over here, I'm going to print out what? In this loop, I'm going to print what? This loop prints out what? In row 0, it prints 6. In row 1, it prints 5. In row 2, it prints 4. What is it printing here?
6 minus I.
Yeah, 6 minus I again. This is that idea that, the number, see here, the number of spaces is what number it prints. See, remember, this number is always the same as this number. This is how many spaces, this is what number to print. See, those things are equal. This column here is equal to that column there. So up here was how many spaces, here was what number to print. Okay, what's left to figure out?
How many times to print it?
Yeah, how many times to print it? Now, that's this column here. Okay?
That's I plus 1.
Yeah, because in row 0, we print it once. In row 1, we print it twice. In row 2, we print it 3 times. Notice these tables really, if you think in terms of a table like this, it really helps a lot to sketch out a table like this. So let's count from 1 up to, now what did we say it was? I'm sorry. Count up to what? From 1 to?
I plus 1.
I plus 1. Okay, there. I plus 1. Okay, now now I think we got that one right. Let's comment out the one that was going to try to do a countdown. Okay, this is the one that's going to try to do a countdown. I'm not sure if we'll have time to do that one, but let's try. Let's see if this one works now. Okay, so visualize. Go to the end. Okay, there it is. That's the right output. Okay. All right. So we got it. Yeah, first time we ran it, it worked. Okay. It took a while to write it, but the first time it ran, it worked, which is not bad. Usually you usually do not get it working right the first time you run it. Okay. But notice how much a table like this can help keep track. Now I have to figure out how many columns my table needs. Like I need a column that says what row I'm in. then I have to figure out, well, what information do I need about each row? In this case, I needed to know how many spaces there were, how many digits there were, and what digit I was actually printing. How many spaces there were, how many digits there were, and what digit I was actually printing. And then I had to create a formula for each of those. This guy was how many spaces, this guy was how many digits, and this guy is what digit I'm printing. Okay, now let's try the decrement one. I think we have time. Let's give it a shot. See if we can figure out. If I'm going to count down, but I need a different table here. Here, I'll show you. Here's the idea. I'm going to count down now. So I'm going to do a different table. Now I'm counting down. So this is 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Okay? Now, what number I'm printing is here. The rest of the columns stay the same. Okay? But now, okay, if I'm in row 6, I print out 6 spaces. So what do I do up here? I'm in row 6, or whatever row I'm in. How many space? Oh, okay, I need a loop for spaces. I still need 2 loops. I need a loop for spaces. There's the loop for spaces. A different blank goes here. And this is the, okay. All right. How many spaces do I print?
Equal to I.
Yeah, just I. See, instead of 6 minus I, now it's just I. Okay. Print the I spaces. So I'm counting down. 6, 4, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 6 spaces. Okay. What number do I print out? I. Okay, now now how many numbers are there? That's this middle column. This is the one that's going to be a little bit trickier. When I is 6, I print out 1. When I is 5, I print out 2. When I is 4, I print out 3. When I is 0, I print out 7.
7 minus I.
Yeah, 7 minus I. So the number of digits here is, doing the right place. 7 minus I. So starting at 1, 7 minus I. Okay. The number of spaces, the number of digits, what digit? Okay, we'll just check.
Shouldn't we start at 0?
Oh, let's see. Oh, I didn't check. Let's see. For which one?
The last one?
For this
'Cause
for
it
loop
should-
here?
Yeah, because it should be printing out 0 7 times.
Well,
It's looking right to me.
the last time it should print out 7.
Oh, no, it's all right. It's all right. My bad.
Okay, yeah. Let's see. Okay, let's give it a try. Yeah, both of them are right. See, the right output. Okay, notice how this table is not the same as the other table. And actually, okay, now let me put the tables in the right order. This table was from the second attempt. So there's the table for the first solution, and here's the table for the second solution. Okay, the first solution, I went from 0 to 6. The second solution, I went from 6 to 0. So one solution counted up, and the other one counted down. Okay, and it changed my table. You know, I had to think a little bit about what goes in the table now. Well, actually, it didn't change the table too much. It changed the table a little bit, but it changed the formulas. Okay, now what's the strategy for these kinds of problems? Yeah, first of all, yeah, if you see a square thing like this, you think, nested for loops. Then think in terms of a table. You're going to pick a row number, and then you're going to say, in each row, what do I do? In this case, I needed 3 things in that row: spaces, digits, what digit. And then make a table so that, and then figure out formulas that go like here, here, and here. Or in this case, there was a formula here, a formula here, and a formula here. Find those formulas by thinking about the table. Okay, so we can do more on Wednesday. If you have questions about the home, if you have questions about these, you ask me, and we can do a few more on Wednesday. Okay. But notice that you don't. The thing about this is, it is tricky. Don't think that your job is to write the solution and then it's perfect. Your job is to try it, see what the output is, go think about what mistake you may have made, fix it, look at the output. So it is about cycling through these steps. Okay, so I have to quit there. If anybody's got any questions, send me an email or come to office hours. I have to cut off office hours early today because I got a 2:30 or so meeting. So I'll have shorter office hours today because I have a meeting I have to go to. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing, and send me an email if you have questions. Otherwise, we'll meet again on Wednesday. Okay, bye-bye. Oh, and please vote tomorrow. If anyone hasn't voted yet, please vote. Bye.